Well, good morning. Many of you know me. I've been hanging around here for about 18 years, singing in the choir, served on the congregation board, the foundation board, a lot of committees, occasional master of ceremonies for cabarets. Sam and I host the auctions together. And some of you also know that I'm a trial lawyer. I handle serious injury and wrongful death cases. But most of you don't know that I carried a pistol for 30 years, or that 10 years ago I stopped. Today's story is about why I started, why I stopped, and how life's been different since. Now, I remember way back around age 4 or 5, living in Bermuda, and about the only thing there was on TV was Armed Forces Television, which played cartoons in the afternoon. And I remember deciding, looking at the difference between the good guys and the bad guys, that I wanted to be a good guy. I wanted to be the guy who rode to the rescue and saved people. You know, I felt small and powerless, but I wanted to be big and strong. Here I come to save the day. So I wrestled in middle school, and I took judo in high school. I took karate in college. But I always doubted I was big enough or strong enough or brave enough to save the day. There were no guns in my house growing up. I never fired one. But then I started practicing law and making a living, and it occurred to me I could get a gun if I wanted one. And I wanted one. So in 1979, I bought a revolver and holster and signed up for classes in how to handle it and do so safely. In 1983, I joined the sheriff's posse, and I started training from a law enforcement perspective. And then I started carrying concealed. And I started buying gear and guns, lots of guns, semi-automatic pistols and revolvers in multiple manufacturers and calibers. I got holsters, all kinds of holsters, under the shoulder, on the hip, behind the back, down by my thigh. I got assault rifles. I got combat shotguns, pump and semi-automatic. I got submachine guns. And I got clothing that I didn't think of as costumes at the time. I got camo fatigues and boots and knee and elbow pads and the vest that put all the magazines in. Yeah, I was cool. Then shooting became a hobby. I'd go to the range once or twice a month and practice. And several times a year, there'd be weekend classes where we'd work on accuracy, trigger control, fast draw, using cover and concealment, firing while moving, hostage rescue, dynamic entries into rooms and houses. We even did fighting with knives. Yeah, I was cool. Not really a tough guy, but I hoped with the weapons and the training, I would be brave enough and tough enough to come to the rescue if the situation arose. Now, we can lose the photo now. Back in 1979, I fell in love with Susan Morris, whom many of you know and love. We got married in 1983, had our first child in 86 and our second child in 87. And I was then, as I am now, a peace-loving liberal. And I was never present when anyone needed to be saved from anything violent. I did get to pull a couple of confused older people out of traffic over the years, but the gun wasn't needed. So all my riding to the rescue I did for my clients, the injured folks and the families of those who'd been killed. And for 30 years, I was a sweet guy, but who thought about violence a lot. Let me tell you what being armed all the time is like. Guns are heavy, so when you carry one, it's in your awareness pretty much all the time. And you have to be ready to defend yourself if you're going to be ready to rescue others. And weapons training includes a lot of focus on awareness, vigilance, paying attention. So I didn't sit with my back to the door in a public place. Every morning I'd go out to go to work, and standing inside my garage, I'd hit the button. And as the garage door went up and that space at the bottom got bigger, I'd be watching in case there were feet that I could see, bad guys rushing in to get me. I'd be able to plug them before they got in. Pretty silly stuff, but I knew it was silly stuff, but still I paid attention all the time, everywhere. And I was vigilant as I moved through the world. I wasn't unfriendly or rude, but there's a vibe that you give off when you're looking at strangers to see if they're a threat. Check them out. And then something happened. In the late summer of 2010, on Bryant Gumbel's sports show, they did an edition called Guns in the Locker Room. And the story was full of these big, muscular athletes, strong, tough, fast, capable guys who were all carrying guns. And they felt like they needed them for protection in a dangerous world. Well, I'm not big or muscular or tough, so that should have been pretty reinforcing for me, right? I mean, if they need guns, I need guns. But there was one tough guy athlete that they talked to a lot. He was big and massive. He was in a tank top and he had incredible muscles. And he had carried a gun for a long time. But he said something which stuck with me, because he had stopped carrying. And he said, when you carry a gun, everyone you see is potentially a target. And he said that he decided he didn't want to see the world that way anymore. Boy, and that, I had to think about that. And I thought about that a lot for about 3 weeks. And at the end of that time, I took my carry weapon and I put it in the safe with the other guns. And I've never pulled a trigger in the 10 years since. It took a few months to stop being uncomfortable, even scared, going out into the world unarmed. Almost as scary as singing that song was. But then a surprising thing happened. I noticed people smiling at me more often. I started chatting with strangers in stores and elevators or just waiting in line. The world became a friendlier place. In a friendlier world, I noticed I was becoming happier. My mood got better, and gradually even my dreams got less violent and scary and kind of became more fun. And as I became even happier, I smiled even more, and even more people smiled back at me. And instead of being preoccupied with threats, my preoccupation now as I go out through the world is smiling at strangers and getting smiles back. It's harder with masks on, but you can still do it some. And it still astonishes me how joyful and meaningful these tiny little interactions are. And I know they're joyful and meaningful for me, and I'm pretty sure they are for the people that I exchange smiles with. Are there still bad and dangerous people in the world? Well, yeah, sure there are. But I realize that in trying to defend myself and be ready to defend others, I had effectively built a castle for defense that became my own prison. And I'm very happy that I walked out. When you face the world with clenched fists, it sucks a lot of the joy out of life. Facing the world with open arms adds a lot of joy in. So in these ever more scary times, I choose to face the world with open arms and a big smile for strangers who may turn into friends. May it be so. Go in peace, go in love, go in joy. Amen. Blessed be. Ashe.